She rejected you. She tossed you aside like your time, your presence, your attention, your very soul had no weight, no value, no consequence. You gave her everything, the texts, the effort, the attention, the loyalty. She smiled, played along, made you believe you had a chance, and then vanished. Or worse, humiliated you, rejected you cold, and you're here now, in the aftermath. That hollow silence, that ache in your chest, that fire in your gut. Good, because this exact pain is the beginning of your rebirth. What if I told you that her rejection is the very thing that can unleash the version of you she could never handle? What if this was your opportunity, not your defeat? You're about to learn exactly how to flip rejection into resurrection, not by simping, not by begging, not by texting long paragraphs she'll never read, but by turning into the one thing she never expected. A man so rare, her ego collapses when she sees you win without her. You're about to hear the truth no one told you, the truth that every man must hear. Before we start, I'm creating the most powerful relationship ebook ever written for men, the Stoic Relationship Blueprint. This isn't pickup lines or tricks. It's ancient wisdom for the modern battlefield men face today. Today's man is emotionally drained. He's tired of chasing, of feeling invisible, of trying to be nice, only to be discarded. He's confused by double standards, exhausted from pretending he's not hurting, ashamed to admit he craves loyalty, love, not games. Modern women have infinite options. Validation floods their inbox daily. But what does a man get? Silence, ghosts, blocked, betrayed. And if he reacts, he's called weak, emotional, unmanly. Men are not being taught how to respond with power. They're being taught to suppress, to chase harder, to be nicer. No more. This blueprint will rewire your reality. It will teach you how to build self-worth that no woman can shake. Spot manipulation from miles away. Master the art of emotional control like a Roman general. Become the man she regrets losing. Comment blueprint if you can't wait to get this ebook as soon as it drops. If this video helps you, subscribe to the channel. Because by subscribing, you're not just changing your life, you're making these truths available to the millions of men who desperately need to hear this. Here's what you do when she rejects you. Number 1. Cut her off immediately. You don't need another excuse to stay connected to her. You've already run the movie in your mind 1,000 times. The imaginary apology, the what-if closure, the day she finally realizes she lost a real one. But none of that is real. What's real is that she chose to stop showing up. She chose to entertain other options. She saw your consistency and mistook it for desperation. She saw your loyalty and thought it was her birthright. So what now? Most men make the mistake of leaving the door open. A story view here, a like there, a message just to check in. But every act of checking back in is a withdrawal from your dignity. She needs to feel the full weight of your disappearance, not because you're trying to manipulate her, but because you're choosing to respect yourself so much that you refuse to sit in rooms where you're not valued. You have to understand that the first lesson in power is removal. Remove access, remove attention, remove expectation. You're not punishing her. You're preserving your self-respect. Think about this. How many women have ghosted a man and come back a month later when they noticed he stopped caring? It happens because your attention was a drug, and now she's going through withdrawals. But it only works if you don't relapse into contact. She may start posting thirst traps, hanging out with the guy you always knew was on the bench, or even pretending she's moved on effortlessly. Let her. Watch nothing, say nothing, do nothing. You are not her audience anymore. You are not her therapist, her backup plan, or her ego patch. You are a man building something bigger, and here's the test. When she notices you've moved on, she will try to reopen the door she slammed shut. That's not a second chance. That's a trap. Will you walk through it? Or will you remember the pain of rejection and use it as fuel to build a new door, one only the worthy get to knock on? A man of value doesn't chase closure. He creates distance. And if she texts you asking how you've been, your absence will speak louder than any reply. When she views your success from afar, it will echo one truth she can't deny. She lost you when you finally realized she was never ready for who you were becoming. And you won't go back, because a man who truly cuts her off doesn't return to old flames. He burns the bridge and builds a kingdom from the ashes. Ask yourself, how long will you pause your progress for someone who never planned on coming back anyway? The answer lies in how much you value your time, because the more time you give to someone who has rejected you, the more you're stealing from your future self. You could be building a business, getting shredded in the gym, learning a new skill that triples your income, or traveling and living like the man you once only dreamed of being. But instead, you're waiting for a text, waiting for her to care, waiting for her to feel what you're feeling. She won't. She's moved on. And if you don't move too, you'll rot in the place she left you. Don't let your life become a museum of memories with a woman who's now a stranger. Don't let your phone become a shrine to rejection. Clear it all. Cut her off. And not just digitally, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Every time you imagine that reunion, you steal energy from your evolution. When you think of her, think of discipline. Think of the empire you're building, the legacy you're shaping, the version of you that's so focused she wouldn't even recognize you if she passed you on the street. That's the goal. Not revenge, but evolution so complete, she becomes irrelevant. Because the truth is, the man who truly cuts her off isn't hiding. He's rising. He's becoming more every day. And by the time she wakes up, he's already gone. He's living a life she was never meant to enter. The man who cuts her off is not cold. He's clear. Clear on what he offers. Clear on what he deserves. Clear that his life no longer has space for people who can't see his worth unless he's begging for it. He's not angry. He's not bitter. He's focused. He's aware that every second spent on someone who doesn't value you is a second stolen from someone who will. So he cuts. Completely. Because he knows that halfway love is poison, and he'd rather drink nothing than sip from a cup that once ran dry. This is your chance. Cut her off, not to get her back, but to finally get yourself back. Number 2. Accept reality without complaining. She said she's not interested. She said she found someone else. She said you're not her type. And suddenly, everything inside you crumbled like a castle built on sand. You felt betrayed, but the truth is, she didn't betray you. She just revealed herself. And that moment of revelation is the clearest message the universe can ever give you. She wasn't meant for the man you're becoming. But most men refuse to hear it. They keep chasing shadows. They try to resurrect a connection that died long ago. They blame her, themselves, the timing, the circumstances. But the Stoic man doesn't beg life to be different. He stares reality in the face and says, "This is what it is. Now what can I build with it?" The sooner you stop resisting what already happened, the sooner you become unstoppable. Imagine you're standing in the rain and getting drenched, screaming at the sky to stop pouring. Will it change anything? Number. But when you accept the rain, you take cover, you adapt, you prepare, and most importantly, you stop giving your power to something you can't control. Rejection is the same. It's not a personal failure, it's a storm you walk through. And the more you complain, the wetter you get. The more you replay the hurt, the longer it owns you. But when you say, "Yes, she's gone. Yes, It hurts. But no, I won't waste another day trying to convince someone to love me. You take back control. That moment is your liberation. You're no longer chained to her decisions. You're no longer tied to her validation. You've entered the realm of men who don't argue with reality. They sculpt it. So what does that look like? It means you don't chase her social media for clues about how she feels. You don't wonder what she meant when she said, "I'm not ready for a relationship." You don't lie in bed imagining her with someone else, wondering what he has that you don't. You say, "She left. That's the truth. Now I rise." You accept that her decision reflects her journey, not your worth. Maybe she wanted something else. Maybe she couldn't handle who you were becoming. Maybe she was never ready to receive what you were ready to give. That's not your failure. That's her reality. And your job isn't to fit her mold. Your job is to become so whole that no rejection can hollow you. When you master acceptance, you unlock a peace that doesn't shake when people walk away. And that peace becomes your edge. It's what makes you different from the millions of men who spiral into self-doubt after heartbreak. Because you know that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. You know that rejection isn't a curse, it's a course correction. You know that every no is the universe saying, "Not her, not now, go further." And when you go further, you meet better. You meet versions of life that wouldn't have been possible if she stayed. Maybe you meet a new love. Maybe you meet a business opportunity. Maybe you meet the real you, the one who doesn't beg, doesn't chase, doesn't break at the sound of goodbye. But none of that happens if you stay stuck asking, "Why did she leave?" Stop asking why. Start asking what. What does this make possible? What is this teaching me? What future is now available because she made space in my life? When you think like this, you no longer fear rejection. You embrace it. You look it in the eye and say, "Thank you. You just made me bulletproof." You become the man who sees reality clearly and never lets a no stop him from building the life he deserves. Number 3, use the pain to build discipline. Pain, real, soul-wrenching pain, is not the enemy you think it is. The gut punch of being replaced, of being ignored, of realizing she never saw you the way you saw her. That fire that scorches your self-worth and leaves you questioning your place in her life, that pain has a purpose. It's not here to crush you, it's here to carve you. And the man who understands this doesn't wait for healing to begin someday. He uses the ache as the alarm clock to build everything she doubted he could become. You don't waste this pain. You don't numb it with parties or distractions. You use it in every rep, in every book, in every late-night grind session where you could have been weeping, but instead you were writing a new story. This isn't about looking better to get her back. It's about becoming someone so mentally disciplined and physically formidable that you would never entertain someone like her again. Ask yourself this: how many mornings did you hit snooze before she left? How many nights did you lie in bed scrolling, waiting for her reply, instead of mastering your craft? How many opportunities did you miss because you were too caught up trying to be seen by someone who had already stopped looking? That version of you dies now. He's gone. The man who replaces him doesn't wait for permission to grow. He stacks habits like bricks, waking early, lifting heavy, eating clean, reading endlessly, tracking progress, facing demons. He uses heartbreak as fuel, not because he wants revenge, but because the pain sharpened his focus. He sees clearly now. She was a lesson, not a destination. This version of you is not concerned with who stayed or left. He's too busy making moves so loud that regret becomes the soundtrack of everyone who underestimated him. Discipline is no longer optional, it's survival. Because without it, you spiral. Without it, you linger. Without it, her name still echoes in your chest. So you build routines that don't need motivation. They run on momentum. You eat when you're supposed to. You train like your life depends on it. You study like every missed opportunity was a message to improve. You keep promises to yourself, not to impress anyone, but to prove to the man in the mirror that you're not going back to the version of yourself who tolerated disrespect. You outgrow the need to be understood by those who left. You stop explaining yourself. You stop replaying conversations. Every ounce of energy is redirected into the mission. And what happens when you do this? People start asking what changed. They wonder where you disappeared to. She might scroll through your story with a pause, trying to figure out how the man who once begged for her attention now lives, like he doesn't know she exists. But the truth is, you're not pretending. You're evolved, and your evolution speaks in abs, in income, in impact, in peace, in boundaries so strong they cannot be crossed without consequence. The pain didn't just wake you up, it redefined your life. You look back and thank the heartbreak, because without it you would have stayed soft. You would have kept tolerating less. You would have stayed ordinary. But now you're becoming the rarest breed, the man who used pain to forge discipline so ruthless even your past self wouldn't recognize you. You no longer need closure. You no longer need revenge. You are the result. You are the proof. The version of you that couldn't handle rejection is gone. This man, he can handle anything. Number 4, never give her emotional validation. She wants to know if you still care. Not because she misses you, but because your care is power. Your reactions are proof that she still matters. Your sadness is her ego's favorite food. So when you text her after she leaves, when you reply to her stories with, "You look beautiful," when you watch every update and like every photo, you're not being sweet. You're bleeding validation, and you are keeping her powerful. Understand this. Attention is currency in a woman's world. The more you give, the less you're worth. The man who's always available, always checking in, always hoping she realizes his worth, is the man who teaches her to never value him. Every time you respond to her breadcrumbs, the casual, "How have you been?" or the subtle like on your post after months of nothing, you pour fuel back into her ego's fire. But when you resist, when you do nothing, when you refuse to give her emotional reaction, when you stay on your path and don't blink at her attempts to provoke jealousy or interest, that's when she starts to question her choice. Because indifference, not anger, is what truly dismantles her sense of superiority. You don't need to tell her she hurt you. She knows. You don't need to show her your pain. She expects it. And when you don't give it, you break her expectation. And that break shakes her more than any outburst ever could. Men are wired to fix, to pursue, to clarify. But not this man, not anymore. This man has learned that emotional control is the final form of masculine strength. He doesn't explain. He doesn't plead. He doesn't need to be seen, heard, validated. He has detached from her illusion. When she checks his page, she sees a man on fire. Not because he's showing off, but because he's living. He's investing in himself so deeply that no external source can grant or remove his worth. This isn't about making her regret. This is about removing her ability to measure your value at all. You rise so far beyond her perception that her opinion becomes irrelevant. And this shift, this internal reframe, is the moment you reclaim your power. From now on, you speak less and move more. You invest in your body, in your finances, in your time. You become selective with who gets your energy. You stop reacting to tests. You stop decoding mixed signals. You stop analyzing her words. Instead, you start reading actions. And her actions were clear. She left, and so you let her. You walk away without commentary, not out of spite, but out of clarity, because you finally see that validation is a trap. You only validate what still holds power, and she no longer does. From now on, every like, every message, every thought. It belongs to you, not her, not her friends, not her replacement, not anyone who couldn't see your value without having to beg for it. You no longer validate people who disrespected you. You validate yourself by winning, quietly, consistently, completely. So next time she reaches out with a half-hearted, "Hey, stranger," you won't feel the urge to reply. You'll feel nothing, not because you're bitter, but because you've outgrown the need for her to see what was always obvious. You were the prize, and the man who realizes that, he doesn't give validation to ghosts. Number 5, master emotional control. Control is not the absence of emotion. Control is the ability to experience all of it, the rage, the humiliation, the rejection, the grief, and still remain unmoved in action. Not numb, not robotic, but centered. You felt everything when she left. You felt the questions, the echo of conversations, the flashes of laughter and connection you thought were real. You felt the betrayal in her eyes when she didn't even flinch while breaking your spirit. But the man who masters emotional control doesn't bury these feelings. He honors them without obeying them. He stands in the storm and says, "Yes, this hurts. But no, I will not lose myself in it." Imagine her texting after weeks of nothing, just when you've begun to rebuild. Your fingers twitch. You want to type something, anything. But you stop, you breathe, you wait, because you've trained yourself not to react to external impulses. You choose what earns your energy. Emotional control means understanding that everything you feel doesn't need to become something you do. Every emotion doesn't require expression. Every trigger doesn't deserve a response. This discipline is forged through small daily acts. Waking up at the time you said you would. Not hitting that snooze. Holding your frame when someone tests your boundaries. Not explaining yourself when someone disrespects you. Walking away when you want to yell. Staying still when your heart wants to chase. It's built when you tell yourself no and follow through. Control doesn't just make you powerful, it makes you mysterious. And mystery is what separates you from the masses of men who broadcast every thought, every feeling, every insecurity. The man who keeps his emotions in check is feared and respected. He's not a slave to lust. He's not a puppet to attention. He sees what's happening and remains focused. Not cold, focused. The world pushes for emotional chaos. Social media thrives on reaction. Dating culture thrives on games. But you rise above it. You say less and observe more. You withhold, you measure, you choose. Because your emotions no longer command you, they inform you. When she left, you wanted to collapse. But instead, you studied, you lifted, you moved forward with scars still healing. You didn't broadcast your pain. You buried it like a seed and watered it with discipline. Emotional control is your edge. It makes your presence sharp, your decisions clean, your energy unshakable. It turns you into a man who doesn't just recover, he ascends. Number 6, reclaim all your energy. Every second you spend thinking about her is energy stolen from your greatness. Every minute spent analyzing her last message, watching her last post, imagining who she's with now, it's all fuel that could have built your empire, burned in the engine of your transformation. Think about how much of your mind she owns. Not just the memories, but the fantasies, the regrets, the invisible weight she still holds even after leaving. And now ask yourself, what if all that focus had gone into you instead? Into your muscles, into your bank account, into your future. You'd be unrecognizable. Energy is your currency, and you've been spending it on someone who's not even thinking about you. It's time to cash out. You don't just remove her from your phone, you remove her from your schedule, you remove her from your goals, you remove the version of you that placed her on a throne she never earned. And then you reinvest. You reinvest in the gym, where pain becomes power. You reinvest in your business, where every win echoes louder than any apology she never gave. You reinvest in your friendships, your family, your mind. You reclaim the mornings where you used to wake up checking for messages. You reclaim the nights where you used to stare at the ceiling, hoping she'd come back. Those hours are now yours. Yours to meditate, yours to study, yours to evolve. You don't distract yourself with shallow flings or empty scrolling. You focus. You give your attention to what feeds you, not what drains you. Reclaiming your energy isn't about becoming emotionally numb. It's about building an inner fortress so strong, not even the memory of her smile can shake its walls. It's about walking into every room like you've already conquered the battles no one knew you were fighting. And you have. You've faced the hardest one, the one inside you. So now you protect your energy like royalty protects the throne. Not everyone gets access. Not everyone deserves your time. You vet people, you study them, you measure how they respond to your boundaries, and if they fail to honor them, you withdraw, not in anger, but in clarity, because you've learned that nothing is more sacred than your focus. She no longer lives in your thoughts rent-free. You've raised the rent, the price is too high, and only those who bring value, peace, truth, they get access now. Your energy is your kingdom. Guard it like your life depends on it. Number 7. Turn rejection into favor. Rejection isn't the end. It's the beginning of revelation. It is the greatest clarity you'll ever receive, packaged in pain, but rich in wisdom. When she said no, when she ghosted, when she chose someone else, life was not punishing you. It was protecting you. It was clearing your path. Because maybe if she stayed, you would have stayed weak. You would have continued compromising, bending, trying to impress, trying to fix, trying to prove. But now you don't have to. You're free. And what you do with that freedom determines the rest of your life. Most men shrink after rejection, but the rare few, they rise. They look at the wound and see opportunity. They feel the ache and ask deeper questions. What part of me was so dependent on her love? What part of me abandoned myself to earn her approval? What patterns did I ignore just to keep her near? And then they change, they recalibrate, they evolve. They become men who no longer attach their worth to someone else's presence. They build identity from within. The rejection becomes their pivot. Instead of texting her, they text their mentor. Instead of begging for a second chance, they create first chances at business, at fitness, at purpose. They start doing the thing they were always meant to do, becoming men of gravity. Rejection, when embraced, becomes a gift. It reveals the cracks in your foundation, and when you patch those cracks with truth, with values, with self-respect, you emerge invincible. You stop trying to be liked. You start being respected. You stop being chosen. You start choosing. And in that moment you realize the power was never in her reply. It was always in your response. You begin to love being underestimated because it gives you space to surprise everyone. You enjoy the solitude because it teaches you to hear your own voice. You cherish the struggle because it builds character, grit, power. And when she sees you again, maybe on a screen, maybe in real life, she won't recognize you. Not because you've changed who you are, but because you've become who you were always meant to be. The man who turns rejection into favor doesn't just move on. He moves up. He doesn't seek revenge. He seeks legacy. He doesn't explain what she lost. He becomes undeniable. And the beauty of this transformation is that it no longer needs her. It doesn't need her apology, her validation, her closure. You've outgrown all of it, because the favor she gave you when she rejected you was the space to finally see your own worth. And that worth is now your compass. It guides your choices. It defines your standards. It elevates your circle. It builds your empire. The favor was never her love. It was her absence, because that absence taught you presence. The favor was never the relationship. It was the rejection, because that rejection built the relationship you now have with yourself, one of power, of honor, of alignment. You've made it to the end. That alone sets you apart from most men. Men who stop halfway, men who chase ghosts, men who numb the pain instead of facing it. But not you. You stayed. You listened. You felt every word. And now you know, the rejection wasn't your end. It was your edge. But don't stop here, because right now, millions of men are suffering in silence, struggling through heartbreak, ghosting, betrayal, giving everything and getting nothing, sacrificing their peace for attention, losing themselves in a society that doesn't teach men how to deal with emotional chaos, modern dating, and psychological warfare that leaves you feeling invisible, disposable, and broken. No more. That's why I'm building something monumental for men like you, something I wish existed when I was in your shoes. It's called the Stoic Relationship Blueprint, and it's dropping very soon. This isn't just another ebook. This is your weapon, your map, your transformation manual. Inside, you'll learn how to never be blindsided again, how to command respect in your relationships, how to spot manipulation before it starts, how to love without losing your mind, how to walk away with dignity when the world tells you to beg. You'll be guided through practical psychological tools, Stoic strategies, and timeless masculine principles that will change how you live, how you love, and how you lead, forever. If you're tired of the games, the confusion, the pain, the nights replaying conversations, the mornings waiting for texts that never come, this blueprint is for you. This isn't about revenge. It's about resurrection. If you're serious about reclaiming your power, mastering your emotions, building unshakable relationships, and stepping into the man you were born to be, then comment below, the blueprint. Because the men who act now are the men who rise, and when it drops, you'll be the first to receive it. Your transformation begins the moment you decide enough is enough. Share this with a man who needs to hear the truth. Like and subscribe to the channel if you believe in making this message reach every man who's still hurting in silence.